Hello, my name is Lucas Henderson and I'm the creator of the game Interlaced. Interlaced is a game that teaches your students empathy, EQ skills, as well as critical thinking skills. In this instructional video, I will explain to you the objective of the game, the rules of the game, as well as a short demo at the end of the video to further your understanding of the game. The first step when trying to play Interlace is going to be firstly to create your base. In this case, my base is the bottom of a Coca-Cola case, at 1 inch high with 9 holes punched in on each side. But the beauty of this game is that your base can really be any square or rectangular item that can be cut and can have holes punched in on each side. After that, the second step is going to be finding the required materials. Next required material, the shoelace. Really, any shoelace will work, but depending on how big your base is, that will require a longer or shorter lace. Next, you need to find the 10 items that you will be using for your game as the secret item. And I will go into that further when I speak about the rules, but the only requirement for these objects is that they need to fit within your base. So the bigger your base, the bigger objects that you can play with. Now that you have the required materials, you can now start to play the game Interlaced. I will first be going over the objective of the game. The objective of the game is to be able to string up a pattern to hold up your secret object. Now, you don't want to make this pattern too obvious so that the other players can get what your secret object is, because then you can lose points. Now, the objective of the game is to reach 10 points. And by achieving certain objectives, you can then achieve points, which I'll be going over further in the rules. This game requires your students to build EQ, empathy, as well as critical thinking skills. They have to read the other player, read their body language, as well as analyze the pattern that they are stringing, to then therefore achieve points. The first rule is that at the beginning of each round, the 10 objects must be laid out, and the players must choose their objects at the exact same time with their eyes closed, then concealing that object under the table so only they know what object they have. They will then play rock, paper, scissors to determine who gets to lace the lace first. This gets on to the next rule, that each player can only lace their lace through 2 holes per turn. This process repeats until a player's object is guessed or the lace runs out. Then we move on to the point system. So if a player's object is guessed before the string runs out, then the player who guessed it is awarded 2 points, but the player whose object was guessed is subtracted 2 points. If the players guess wrong or they don't guess at all, this brings me to the next point that you can get awarded. By being able to hold up your object by the pattern that you strung. Now this only happens when both players either guess incorrectly or they don't guess at all. Now finally, this process repeats multiple times because you can gain points as well as lose points. It is a multiple round system that only can be won when a player reaches 10 points. Now we'll go through a short demo on how to play the game. The first step is of course choosing the secret items. And as I said earlier, each player will choose their object with their eyes closed. So each player will now do this with their eyes closed, grabbing an object. Now that they have their object, they can now open their eyes as it is concealed under the table and only they know what object they have. Now they will play rock, paper, scissors to determine who goes first. Now the player who won gets to go first and they can string the string through 2 holes to start the pattern. Now it is the next player's turn. Again, he can string the lace through 2 holes before moving on to the next. So now I'm going to be able to take my first guess, and I think that the other player has an eraser because from this corner I can tell that it is very small and he's trying to string an object that can hold a very small object. As you can see, he had the eraser, and yes, it would have held up his object, but since it got guessed, that is a subtraction of 2 points from him and 2 points to me. So now it is 2 to -2. Now, the game repeats, following the same steps, unlacing it every single time, and starting the process all over again. I hope this was very helpful, and I hope that you have fun playing the game Interlaced.